तस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पार्श्वदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So I
Hare
welcome all of you for reading from Nectar of Devotion book. So this is Devotion service. No question.
Snakes, birds, flies, exactly like one's own son. How little difference there actually is between children and these innocent animals. Purport. One who is in Krishna consciousness understands that there is no difference between the animals and the innocent.
So we read this as well. Readiness or devotion service is reading. So this is in the Hari Bhakti Surodaya. Prahlad Maharaj, while satisfying the Lord, Narasimha by his prayer says, "My dear Lord of the universe, I am feeling transcendental pleasure in your presence and have become immersed in the ocean of happiness. I now consider the happiness of Brahmananda to be no more than the water in the impression left by a cow's hoof in the earth. Compared to this ocean of bliss, compared to this ocean of bliss, yeah. My dear Lord of the universe, I am feeling transcendental pleasure in your presence and have become immersed in the ocean of happiness. I now consider the happiness of Brahmananda to be no more than the water in the impression left by a calf's hoof in the earth, compared to this ocean of bliss. Similarly, it is confirmed in Bhavarth Deepka, Sridhar Swami's commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam. My dear Lord, some of the fortunate persons who are swimming in the ocean of your nectar of devotion and who are relishing the nectar of the narration of your pastime certainly know excesses which immediately minimizes the value of the happiness derived from various economic development, self-gratification, and liberation. Such a transcendental devotee regards any kind of happiness other than devotional service as no better than a straw in the street. Attracting Krishna. Rupa Swami has stated that devotional service attracts even Krishna. Krishna attracts everyone, but Krishna attracts everyone, but devotional service attracts Krishna. The symbol of devotional service in the highest degree is Radharani. Krishna is called Madan Mohan, which means that he is so attractive that he can defeat the attraction of thousands of Cupid. But Radharani is still more attractive, for she can even attract Krishna. Therefore, devotee call her Madan Mohan Mohini, the attractor of Cupid. So essentially, Rupaswami says that devotion service attracts even Krishna. So Sri Krishna Akarshani, the another characteristic of devotion service. Sri Krishna Akarshani. So Krishna attracts everyone. But devotional service to Krishna attracts Krishna also. So it's in the devotional service, devotion in the highest degree is Radharani, because Radharani is the highest devotee. So Krishna is called Madan Mohan because he attracts even Cupid. Thousands and thousands of Cupids also are defeated in presence of the Lord. Madan Mohan. But Radharani is, that means the pure devotional service which Radharani carries is still more attractive. So it can attract even Krishna also. That's why she is called Madana Mohana Mohini, the attractor of Cupid. To perform devotional service means to follow in the footsteps of Radharani. And devotees in Vrindavan put themselves under the care of Radharani in order to achieve perfection in their devotional service. Perform devotion means to follow in the footsteps of Radharani, and devotees in Vrindavan put themselves under the care of Radharani in order to achieve perfection in their devotional service. In other words, devotional service is not an activity of the material world. It is directly under the control of Radharani. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that the Mahatmas or great souls are under the protection of Devi Prakriti, the internal energy, Radharani. So being directly under the control of internal potency of Krishna, devotional service attracts even Krishna himself. So all the devotees, when they are trying to perform devotional service, they are actually trying to follow the footsteps of Radharani. So when we go in kitchen also, we say Radharani's kitchen. And we simply go there to assist Srimati Radharani. That's our mood. So same way, any kind of devotional service is nothing but it's Radharani only manifesting. So we are getting any service, basically what we are doing, getting is favor of Srimati Radharani. Because all services, Radharani can do the best. Whether it is cooking or it is cleaning or any kind of service, Radharani is the best devotee. So, and the spiritual master is the best assistant to Srimati Radharani. So to follow the future Radharani, devotees in Vrindavan put themselves under the care of Radharani in order to achieve perfection in their devotional service. So we have to beg mercy of Srimati Radharani for doing all our devotional services nicely. You know, the devotional service is not an activity of the material world, it is directly under the control of Radharani. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that. So just like when you have to go to any temple or you have to go to any company, then you cannot just do anything there on your own. You know, you have to have some kind of mercy of the CEO or the owner of that company, or somebody who is part of that, who can authorize you to come inside or do anything there. Even if you have to do cleaning also in the company, no ordinary person can go and do cleaning there. So he has to be an official person. Same way, the devotional service is that whole department is under Radharani actually. So Radharani is the topmost devotee, and she only engages everybody in the service of Krishna, like that. So that's why devotees will not put themselves under the care of Radharani in order to achieve perfection in the devotional service. So I say. In other words, devotional service is not an activity of material world; it is directly under the control of Radharani. In Bhagavad Gita, it is so. This is not the activity of the material world devotional service. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that the Mahatmas or great souls are under the protection of Devi Prakriti. That's why we say Mahatmanastu Mahapartha Devim Prakriti Ashritaha Bhajantanani Manaso Gyata Bhutadmabhyayam. So it is confirmed that the Mahatmas or great souls are under the protection of Devi Prakriti, the internal energy, Radharani. So being directly under the control of the internal potency of Krishna, devotional service attracts even Krishna himself. It's amazing. So being directly under the control of the internal potency of Krishna, because internal potency energy is Srimati Radharani. So when you are under the control of Srimati Radharani, so devotional service attracts even Krishna himself. Yeah. So when we take shelter of Srimati Radharani, then we are actually controlled by, we are actually getting the shelter of Srimati Radharani. That's the point. So being directly under the control of the internal potency of Krishna, devotional service attracts even Krishna himself. So when we perform devotional service under the shelter in the shelter of the internal potency of Krishna, then that attracts even Krishna also. So when we are chanting Hare Krishna Mantra or we are performing any devotional service, it is very much attractive to Lord Krishna. He becomes attracted to such a. This fact is corroborated by Krishna in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 14th chapter, verse 20, where he says, My dear Uddhav, you may know it from me that the attraction I feel for devotional service rendered by my devotees is not to be attained even by the performance of mystic yoga, philosophical speculation, ritualistic sacrifices, the study of the Vedanta, the practice of severe austerities, or the giving of everything in charity. These are, of course, very nice activities, but they are not so as attractive to me as a transcendental loving service rendered by my devotees. So Krishna himself is revealing to Uddhav in 11th canto that the attraction of what I feel for devotional service rendered by my devotees is not to be attained even by performance of all these things. So even austerities and giving charity, nothing attracts Krishna. Krishna thinks good activities, but they are not as attractive to me as transcendental loving service rendered by my devotees. How Krishna becomes attracted by the devotional service of his devotees is described by Narada in Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 10th chapter, verses 48 and 49. Then Narada addresses King Yudhishthira while the king is appreciating the glories of the character of Prahlad Maharaj. A devotee always appreciates the activities of other devotees. How Krishna becomes attracted by the devotional service of his devotees is described by Narada in Srimad Bhagavatam. They are Narada, 7th canto. Okay, how Krishna becomes attracted by the devotional service of his devotees. Okay. Then Narada addresses King Yudhishthira while the king is appreciating the glories of the character of Prahlad Maharaj. A devotee always appreciates the activities of other devotees. Yudhishthira Maharaj was appreciating the qualities of Prahlad, and that is one symptom of a pure devotee. Pure devotee never thinks himself great. He always thinks that other devotees are greater than himself. The king was thinking, Prahlad Maharaj is actually devoted to the Lord, while I am nothing. And while thinking this, he was addressed by Narada's follower. My dear King Yudhishthira, you, the Pandava brothers, are the only fortunate people in this world. The Supreme Personality Godhead has appeared on this planet and is presenting himself to you as an ordinary human being. He is always with you in all circumstances. He is living with you and covering himself from the eyes of others. He is living with you and He is living with you and covering himself from the eyes of others. He is always with you in all circumstances. He is living with you and covering himself from the eyes of others. Others cannot understand that he is the Supreme Lord. Others cannot understand that he is the Supreme Lord, but he is still living with you as your cousin. He is living with you and covering himself from the eyes of others. That means he is so intimately dealing with Pandavas. And others cannot understand that he is the Supreme Lord, but he is still living with you as your cousin. So nobody can understand that he is the Supreme Lord and that he is living with him. So others cannot understand means he is such dealing in such intimate way that people cannot understand, detect that he is the Supreme Lord. But he is living with you as your cousin, as your friend, and even as your messenger. Therefore, you must know that nobody in this world is more fortunate than you. Nobody in this world is more fortunate than you. In Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna appeared in his universal form, Arjuna prayed, My dear Krishna, I thought of you as my cousin, brother. And so I have shown disrespect to you in so many ways, calling you Krishna or friend. But you are so great that I could not understand. So that was the position of the Pandavas. Although Krishna is the Supreme Personality Godhead, the greatest among all greats, he remained with those royal brothers, being attracted by their devotion. So that was the position of the Pandavas. Although Krishna is the Supreme Personality Godhead, the greatest among all greats, he remained with those royal brothers, being attracted by their devotion, by their friendship, and by their love. That is the proof of how great this process of devotional service is. It can attract even the Supreme Personality of Godhead. God is great, but devotional service is greater than God because it attracts him. People who are not in devotional service can never understand what great value there is in rendering service to the God. So it says, you're great, so great that I could not understand. I could not understand. So that was the position of the Pandavas. Although Krishna is regarded the greatest among all greats, he remained with those royal brothers, being attracted by their devotion, by their friendship, and by their love. Mm. Mm. The Lord becomes just like an ordinary, friend or lover or relative out of such great spontaneous affection for his devotees. There is a proof of how great this pursuit of service is that Krishna becomes so attracted to just being an ordinary person in front of his devotee, with his devotees also. It can attract even the Supreme Personality Godhead. That is pure devotion service can attract Krishna also. God is great, but devotion service is greater than God is great, but devotion service is greater than God because it attracts him. People who are not in devotion service can never understand what great value there is in rendering service to the Lord. People who are not in devotion service can never understand what great value there is in rendering service. The Lord is attracted by the pure devotion service. So devotion service is greater than God. That means somebody performing devotion service is very, very high thing, not easy. Service to devotees, service to the Lord is very, very high thing. Yeah, it's not an ordinary thing. So much so that even Lord wants to serve his devotees. Lord also wants to do service because Lord also want to perform devotion service because he sees Radharani more happy when performing devotional service. It is an amazing part of devotional service. Okay, the first stage of devotion. The three categories of devotional service which Srila Rupa Goswami describes in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu are listed as devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, and devotional service in pure love of God. It's called sadhana bhakti, then bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti. The three stages. So there are many subheadings in each of these categories. Generally, it is understood that in the category of devotional service in practice, okay. Generally, it is understood that in the category of devotional practice, there are two different qualities. Devotional service in ecstasy has four qualities. Practice has two different qualities. Service in ecstasy has four qualities, and devotional service in pure love of God has six qualities. These qualities will be explained by Srila Goswami later on. In this connection, Srila Goswami suggests that the person eligible for Krishna consciousness or devotional service can be classified by his particular taste. He says that devotional service is a continual process from one's previous life. No one can take to devotional service unless he has had some previous connection with it. Devotional service can be classified by his particular taste. I mean, the person eligible for Krishna consciousness devotional service can be classified by particular taste. Devotional service is a continual process from one's previous life. No one can take devotional unless he has some previous connection. Okay. For example, suppose in this life, I practice devotional service to some extent. Even though it is not 100% perfectly performed, whatever I have done will not be lost. In my next life, from the very point where I stop in this life, I shall begin again. In this way, there is always a continuity. But even if there is no continuity, if only by chance a person takes interest, but even if there is no continuity, if only by chance a person takes interest in pure devotee instruction, he can be accepted and can advance in devotion service. But even if there is no continuity, if only by chance a person takes interest in pure devotee instruction. So see, what is saying, whatever I've done will not be lost. In my next life, on the very point where I stop in this life, I shall begin again. In this way, there is always a continuity. But even if there is no continuity, that means you have not done before. If only by chance a person takes interest in a pure devotee instruction, and somehow he gets in touch with pure devotee and he takes instruction, he can be accepted and can advance in devotion service. Anyway, for persons who have have a natural taste for understanding books like Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Devotional service is easier than those who are simply accustomed to mental speculation and argumentative process. Mm. Mm. To support this statement, there are many authoritative assertions by the learned scholars of bygone ages. According to the general opinion, a person may become governed by certain convictions, uh, by his own arguments and decisions. Then another person who may be greater logician will nullify this conclusion and establish another thesis. In this way, the path of argument will never be safe or conclusive. Srimad Bhagavatam recommends therefore that one follow in the footsteps of the authorities. Here is a general description of devotional service given by Srila Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Previously, it has been stated that devotional service can be divided into three categories, namely devotional service in practice, devotional service in ecstasy, and devotional service in pure love of God. Now, Srila Rupa Goswami proposes to describe devotional service in practice. Practice means employing our senses in some particular type of work. Therefore, devotional service in practice means utilizing our different sensory organs in service to Krishna. Some of the senses are meant for acquiring knowledge, and some are meant for executing the conclusion of our thinking, feeling, and willing. So practice means employing both the mind and the senses in practice or practical devotional service. This practice is not for developing something artificial. For example, a child learns or practices to walk. This walking is not unnatural. The walking capacity is there originally in the child, and simply by a little practice, he walks very nicely. Similarly, devotional service to the Supreme Lord is a natural instinct of every living entity. Even uncivilized men like the aborigines offer their respectful obeisances to something wonderful exhibited by nature's law. So walking capacity is there. Simply by little practice, he walks very nicely. So the devotional service practice is when we are trying to employ our mind and senses. So it is not something artificial. So devotional service practice means utilizing our different sensory organs in service to Krishna. Some of the senses are meant for acquiring knowledge, some are thinking, feeling, willing. So practice means implying both mind and sensory and practical devotional service, and this is not artificial. This practice is not for developing something artificial. So it's natural. Only thing is in contaminated state, it looks little challenging. Like a child who has a potential to walk, but it may be difficult for the child to learn walking. It looks like something difficult, challenging. But actually, child can walk. He has the capacity. Simply by little practice, he walks very nicely. So similarly, devotion to Supreme Lord is the natural instinct of every living being. Even uncivilized men like aborigines offer their respectful obedience to something wonderful exhibited by nature's law. They appreciate that behind some wonderful exhibition or action, there is something supreme. So this consciousness, though lying dormant in those who are materially contaminated, is found in every living being. And when purified, it is called Krishna consciousness. There are certain prescribed methods for employing our senses and mind in such a way that our dormant Krishna consciousness for loving Krishna will be invoked, as much as the child with a little practice can begin to walk. One who has no basic walking capacity cannot walk by practice. Similarly, Krishna consciousness cannot be aroused simply by practice. Actually, there is no such practice. One has no basic walking capacity, cannot walk by practice. See? Similarly, Krishna consciousness cannot be aroused simply by practice. Actually, there is no such practice. When we wish to develop our innate capacity for devotional service, there are certain processes by which, by our accepting and executing them, will cause that dormant capacity to be invoked. Such practice called sadhana. It's clear, no? We're saying that there are certain prescribed methods for implying our senses and mind in such a way that our dormant consciousness is already there for loving Krishna will be invoked. As much as a child with a little practice can begin to walk. One who has no basic walking capacity cannot walk by practice. Similarly, Krishna consciousness cannot be aroused simply by practice. So just like by practice something you acquire, it is not like that. It has to be there. So similarly, Krishna consciousness cannot be aroused simply by practice. It has to be there inside. So actually, there is no such practice. When we should develop our innate capacity for devotional service, there are certain processes by which accepting and rejecting them will cause the dormant capacity to be invoked. Such practice is called sadhana bhakti. So I heard this nice example of priming one devotee was saying. They said just like you hear chant, and then it is not something artificial. Already that Krishna consciousness is there. So you take some Krishna consciousness from outside, and that goes, it removes your, that layers of ignorance. Then so much of transcendental, Krishna consciousness is there in the dormant state. It just comes out. Just like in village pump, they put water. So water they put for in the beginning just to remove the gap, that air. When the air is removed, so much water from within it will come out. So like that, saying that now, so we are also like a pump, and we don't find any Krishna consciousness coming out from someone, but it is there inside. So when priming process like hearing, chanting, performing devotion service, so it's like filling water. So then gap goes away. And then so much of Krishna consciousness can be seen. How so much Krishna consciousness is there? Because it is there in dominant state. Every divinity is very, very Krishna conscious. Okay, so I will pause here. Any comment, Virat Prabhu or Manu Mataji? Any comment or questions? Reflection, I'll pause. Otherwise. Today somehow nobody joined, I don't know why.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I was in a different class. Sorry.
Acha, where?
I was in a class with a Prabhupada disciple in Florida.
Oh, you're in Florida nowadays?
Oh yeah.
Oh. It's very nearby to your house?
Florida. The state is Florida, and then the city is in the state.
No, you traveled some 2-3 hours and then you went, or how?
Oh no, that was on the weekend. On the weekend, I traveled like.
No. Today you heard how, where you went.
Oh, it was on Zoom.
Oh, Zoom.
Yeah.
From Florida live they put on.
Yeah, they do like Tuesday evenings.
Oh, it's live lecture.
Yeah.
Till what time?
Like 8:10.
Till 8:10. Okay.
Yeah.
Who got it? Who is the disciple? Which proper disciple gave today?
His Grace Lakshmi Narasimha Prabhuji.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay, bro. So I think the time is up. So I'll pause here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Gautama Nande, Hare Hare.